All right. Well, thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to come do some training here. Let me just start off with a word of prayer. Father, we thank you for this immense responsibility. Lord, we confess our dependence on you in training up children, Lord, to know you, to serve you, to love you, Lord, to understand your love for them. Help us to convey that. Help us to be well-equipped and wise in how we go about this mission in honor of you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. So this is our annual children's ministry training. Would you mind raising your hand if it's your first time going through this training? Great. Okay. There's a handful of you. That's great. For the rest of you, it'll sound familiar, but as I was looking over the notes, it was a good reminder for me, and I wrote this stuff, so I'm like, I know we need to hear it every year, and there's always a few little tweaks here and there as well, so it's good stuff to go over. But first, just want to say thank you so much for sacrificing your time. Maybe it's once a month. For many of you, it's once a week, and there's even time on top of that, preparing your lessons and different things that you guys do, whether it's for Awana or for Sunday school or Kids Grow and all the different things. So thank you guys for being a part of this mission. And just one other thing to note is how really this is one of the most significant, it's certainly the largest ministry that we do on an ongoing basis here at Renton Bible Church, and certainly has a huge impact and pays off a lot. So it's great that so many of you are involved, and we are always looking for more people to get involved, as I'll talk a little bit about when we get there. But first, let's meet the team. In your packets, your Children's Ministry Leader Guide, if you go to page 2, you'll see an updated Meet the Team. I will be taking probably a more active role in children's ministry oversight, so I've put my name down and my email. For just general kind of scheduling at times or just general inquiries, you can always email secretary@rentonbiblechurch.org or call the main office. And then as far as nursery, Terry Dolefeld and Stephanie Burdan are the coordinators for that. Cindy is our Kids Grow director. And I'm assuming you guys know these people, but there are a few of you who might not be as familiar with names, so that might be good to, so just so you know, Terry right here, Stephanie's not here tonight, Cindy, our Kids Grow right here, and then David, I don't see David, he's late, well, it's understandable, just newborns, okay, I guess it's an excuse for a couple weeks, but then he's got to get his act together. All right, but we also have Patty, who is the Awana secretary, representing. Okay. Our purpose for children's ministry, as you'll see on page 3, is the same as our purpose for all of Renton Bible Church, and that is our stated mission is the spiritual formation of kingdom-oriented people leading to a fully revitalized church. And children's ministry is a significant part of that mission. And another way of stating it as it applies to children's ministry is to say that we seek to lay a solid foundation of faith and develop meaningful relationships for children from birth until adolescence. And that is really what children's ministry here is all about. You can see on page 3 a little bit more of a breakdown of how we engage with that within the different relationships, from the leader to child relationship, child to child, child to God, and leader to parent. So we won't spend a lot of time on that, but feel free to read that over in your own time. Our children's programs, it's also good to just get a big picture of what we have going on here at Bible Church. To know that we're all on the same team, there is a coordinated effort here in how we're discipling children. from birth to adolescence. And so the different programs that we have going on is nursery, starts there with for infants. Then Kids Grow ages 2 to 5, Kids Grow kindergarten through 3rd grade, and then preteens, which is a new thing that we have just started up last week, and that includes grades 4 through 6. So that Kids Grow, both Kids Grow groups and the preteen group specifically meet during the sermon time of our service. So that is a during the service ministry that we provide for kids, and it's important to make that distinction because it's those ministries and nursery as well that we ask volunteers to really just try to serve once a month so that you're not missing out on the time with regular sermon ministry worshiping together with the other adults. So it's these other ministries on the other side. Kids Sunday School, which is before the service, meets during the same time as the adult Sunday schools, and Awana, which is Wednesday nights, and then special events, which happen periodically throughout the year, that where there, if you're able to serve on a weekly basis, that's great. Any questions or comments before moving on? Okay. And just so we're still on the same page about curriculum, Kids Grow has been using the Jesus Storybook Bible. I think it's a great curriculum. That's what we're still using, correct? I want to make sure I'm up to date on all these things, so I'll be looking for some affirmation here. Yes, and that it has a story. It goes through Old Testament and New Testament over the course of a year, and it ties every story to Jesus and how Jesus is the fulfillment, the expectation that we're waiting for, and that fulfills our deepest longings and desires as seen in each story of the Bible. The new preteen class, the curriculum we're using there is called Grapple. And I think I have, all this stuff should be on page 19 if you want to flip there. Maybe I'm wrong here. Is it? I don't think it's page 19. Page 20. Okay. Yeah. Preteens Grapple is designed to get preteens grappling with tough questions in meaningful ways so they understand and own their faith. So they will be doing a little more hands-on, looking up verses and being probed with different questions to think about how this can apply to their lives. The Sunday school, are we still using? Okay, what? The fruit of the Spirit. Okay, so you'll kind of go more of a series by series basis? Probably, okay. Yeah, okay, that's great. Yeah, I like it. So Christina is the one who's leading up the Kids Sunday School right now, and so, yeah, she'll develop that, and that's great. And then Awana, they have their own set curriculum that they use, and those are just the images of it there. And then I do just like to highlight these additional resources or supplements, especially if you're using the fellowship room for your teaching. There's 3 in particular. There's the Bible, I guess it's just the Bible timeline, which it's up on the wall. It goes just from Abraham to Jesus, so it's not quite the full, all of history, but it is a very helpful tool to just see where are we at in chronologically in the story. And then there's a Bible story map, seeing where are we geographically. It's really just a map of Israel and kind of a little bit wider into the Middle East. That's in the fellowship room. And there's also one of those in the classroom 1, I think it is. And then the Bible bookcase chart, which just has a little image of a bookcase and all 66 books of the Bible. So you can point out, and these are great visuals to reinforce where are we at in the Bible, where are we at chronologically, and where are we at, geographically. And so I encourage you, as much as you can, try to work that in to frame whatever you're teaching. And there's ways to do that as well, even if you're not in that classroom, in fellowship room. But yeah, I think it just is really good to give a little bit of background as you get into your specific teaching and Bible stories. Okay, so ministry roles, it's good to, again, just have an overview of what roles are available for volunteering. And you're probably familiar with this if you've already been volunteering, but it's still good to just know what it is we have going on. So if there's a different role that you might be better suited to, you're welcome to reach out. So there is kind of the primary teacher who gives the lesson. Then there is a teacher's helper. Now that distinction isn't always there. Sometimes you're just co-teachers. That's totally fine, as long as you're not co-helpers. We do need teachers doing something. So there's how you decide to go about that is totally up to you and your partner in there. And sometimes you'll have 2 helpers. In the case of like the K through 3rd grade class, we've been using 3 leaders at a time. And then nursery caregiver, that one's more of just a singular role, although there might be kind of a lead and a helper. I don't know if, not really. It's kind of just, yeah, you got your nursery caregiver. And then director or coordinator, and that's, as we went over, who's kind of doing that for different roles. But if you are seeing a gap in leadership or feeling like, hey, this could use a little more attention, especially if you're interested in becoming a director of some sort, feel free to reach out to me or one of our other leaders. All right, and as far as the commitment goes, you see it, where is it? I don't think it's, yeah, it is on page 4. There's no formal length of commitment, but I would encourage you to stick with it for at least a year if possible to allow for relationships to form, skills to develop, as well as for a sense of consistency for the children. But if you know you can only serve for a season, for example, you're only available in the summer or something like that, that can be arranged as well. Just make sure you're communicating to us your availability. And if you need to step away from serving for a season, we totally understand. And we just would really appreciate having some sufficient time to plan and accommodate so that we can find a replacement for you. But that's just kind of how the general cycle goes. All right, any questions about that or comments before I get into this next section? Okay. Safety, let's see here. Now under safety, you can look at the table of contents there. There's 3 different categories, so pages 10, 11, and 12. But oh, I see. So actually, I did kind of put the categories a little bit jumbled here because first I'm doing check-in and check-out, which is related to safety, but in your table of contents, it's under operations. So that's page 5. Now I'll go through our outlined process, but I'd love for a couple of you who do this regularly have done it for the past year, to maybe give some tips or just explain on the most practical level, what does it look like when you are checking in and checking out? Are there challenges that you're facing when you're checking in, checking out that we need to address? And so be thinking about that as I go through this, and raise your hand so we can all benefit from that. So the goal is to have a registration form for every child. They should be filled out. It's just a one-time thing. You're not registering a child every week that they come. But we have it on file. New families should be directed to the information center before service if possible, or when kids are dismissed during the service if we didn't catch them before the service, in order to fill out the form. The information is then kept on file. A paper copy of the information will be kept in a binder in the classroom. Mm-hmm.
So, like last week, I think we had 2 new girls who weren't on the
Oh, yeah.
So we just asked their name and put it on there.
Good, yeah. Yeah, I'd say if you're already back there and you realize it, that they're not on the roster and there's nothing on file, I'd say just track down when the parent does come to pick them up at the end of the service, have them fill it out there then. Any other, comments about that? Any feedback, what you think? Do we know where the forms are? Yeah, they should be.
But they aren't always.
Okay, so I will follow up on that. So yeah, they should be in the binder. Does every classroom have a binder that has the registration forms in it? Okay, so we also need to get that. There was at one time, so it might just be in a closet back there, but if not everyone's aware of it, then we should get that sorted out. But yeah, there should be a binder at least. Yeah, you don't have to pull it out every week because it's just like on file if anything does happen. But unless it's in the office, but I think it's probably back there. I'll go take a look. Sorry I didn't check already. But yeah.
I don't know if you know the answer to this, but are they doing that for nursery as well, if we need to fill out registrations?
I believe so, yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
It's not too tough, since my grandson.
Yeah. So for the sake of recording, yes, the nursery also has registration forms. Yes?
Could we use something like have a red sticker on the back of the tags for kids that have allergies or things that we should be aware of?
Oh yeah, the intention was to have it, any allergies indicated on name tags. If that hasn't been done, I should make a note to update that. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely our policy. Our policy is to, but there's always a difference between policy and execution. So we will try to, that should be done. Other questions? Okay. So name tags, we have name tags, right? But we would like to, Cindy was mentioning to me the other week that she'd like to transition from the clip-ons, this is for the K through 3rd group, right, to lanyards. So we'll try that out. I think we had originally were hesitant to do that because we were concerned about them either playing with it or pulling on it. But if we try it out and there's no issues, then I'd say it might be easier. It's just easier to pull on and off? Or has there been trouble with the clips? Okay. Okay. It's easier to forget because it's smaller. Yeah. Okay. So we'll try that out. But yeah, name tags. I guess we're not doing name tags for the nursery though, as far as I know, right? Okay. Right. So we have name tags, and name tags are a part of the check-in, check-out process. So we check them in. We have a roster, right? Are we using a roster every week and checking them in that way? Okay. And then they are officially checked out once they have handed you back their name tag. That's kind of like you've identified the parent, the person picking them up that is authorized to do that, and you hand it back to them, or they hand their name tag back to you. Then that is, the official checkout. Yes, Flory. Right. So it should be a parent or someone, an adult who has been authorized. So that is part of the registration form, is they indicate who they are okay with picking up their child.
So then do we have copies of that? It's on the
Okay, yeah, it's on the clipboard. Yeah. And yeah, if you're unfamiliar with names, I've written it in the instructions here, but if you don't know the adult, introduce yourself, get their name, then check your clipboard. If there's any discrepancy, make some inquiries, ask some questions, obviously be polite, but it is important that way. Yeah, there's discretion. Yeah, but we also, we want to make sure we're not breaking our policies like willy-nilly kind of, yeah. But there is, yeah, a lot of times, I don't know, probably 98% of the time, you're going to know the person. It's going to be very straightforward. There's just, those guests or those rare occasions where, you got to ask some questions and figure it out. All right, so there is a roster. That's where we check them in. If you haven't done this before, you've seen us dismiss the kids after the worship, after the elder prayer, after the Minute with Missions. Then they're dismissed to meet their teachers in the foyer, where you'll meet them and then take them back to the classroom. Pick up, check out, I kind of went over that with the name tags. I think you'll also mark it on the roster. So there's a check-in and check-out column. And greet and identify, retrieve name tag, mark on roster. And then our policy about sick kids: to avoid getting several other kids or babies sick, we will only accept children who appear to be healthy. If a child is sick, return them to their parent, offered these other options. They can sit with their parents in the sanctuary. They can go with their parents to the green room to watch the service from there. Those are kind of our two alternatives. Yeah. Questions or comments about this whole process? Is meeting in the foyer working out well? Is it too chaotic, or is it like, no, the kids kind of know what to do, you get them? Has there been any incident of like missing a child from when you meet them in the foyer to when you get to your classroom? Yeah, we got some runners, so.
Work out with the leader, you're going, I'm staying.
Okay. Yeah. It's true. So yeah, coordinating with your partner is very important, making sure, and that is kind of a common theme in all of our safety tips, is like a lot of times it's one person stays, one person goes to follow the runner, to make sure, we're tracking down kids, not losing anyone. All right, going on from there then, other safety guidelines starting on page 10. Our physical touch standards there, please read them over. It's pretty straightforward, but obviously, you're familiar with what's kind of a healthy, good-looking physical touch: high fives, handshakes, maybe a brief side hug. Here's the other thing I'll say is, because a lot of us are family, and so you might be so familiar, but it's good to like kind of try to save the closer family physical touch and cuddling for home, just so that we have a standard here that there's no like wondering, oh well, why is that teacher being so friendly with that kid? Well, that's their son or daughter. It's like, well, not all the parents would know that, so it's good to just try to look over that, follow that while volunteering. Leader to child ratio, our policy is to have 2 leaders to each classroom, which brings up our current need to fill the children's ministry schedule. This is our schedule here for the next 3 months, and we are in need of another helper in nursery on the first Sunday of the month. That's still true?
We switch off. Stephanie and I and our partner usually switch off so we can do communion at the end of the month.
Oh, okay.
So yes, we are in need of one.
Yeah. All right, so there's a need there in nursery, and then there's a pretty big need in the younger kids grow group. We're in need of second Sunday of the month and fourth Sunday of the month, so we need 2 different people to fill those. So not one person to do it second and fourth, but one person to do it second Sunday of the month, one person on the fourth. So if you know anyone, or if you came here without an official role yet and you're just wanting to learn more, those are a couple of needs. The older kids grow group, We've been seeking to have 3. Do we currently still need 3 with how it has, with the preteen group, has that made the Kids Grow K through 3rd smaller? Okay, so it's probably more manageable, but it definitely doesn't hurt to have 3. So we can keep scheduling those, the weeks that we have 3. But there's at least every 4th Sunday of the month, there's only 2, which is okay. I mean, as long as Kayla and Donna are okay with it. You guys are the ones that only have 2 volunteers. But yeah, if we find a 3rd, we can fit them in there. Okay. Yeah, look over the other safety guidelines on page 11. Have there been any issues with bathroom breaks? Our policy is that when accompanying younger children to men's or women's restroom, the worker should stand at the door with the door ajar. The kids who need assistance, a member of the same sex is ideal, and assistance from a second leader, for example, one of the nursery workers, is beneficial. So in this scenario, if you're like in one of the classrooms down the hall and say 1 or 2 kids need to go to the bathroom and you need to accompany them, one leader would stay in the room, leave the door ajar, the other leader would take those that need to go down, and then leaving the bathroom door open. Yes?
What works good with the little ones is, before we have our snack, we all troop down, they use the restroom, we wash their hands, and we come back and have a snack.
Okay.
That seems to eliminate the having to go to the bathroom in between.
Yeah, so just doing it all as a whole class, gets it all done at the same time, and then both leaders can stay together. So that's great. I believe the older Kids Grow group, the kids just go themselves, right? So a leader doesn't accompany them. What has been the practice there? Do you just leave the door open until they return, or do we have them go with a buddy, or we just go on their own? Okay. Depends on if they're known to disappear for long periods of time or run. Okay. So case by case basis, but yeah. All right. That's good. Let's see. Yeah, other than that, I mean, those are the things I just would like to highlight, but feel free to look over the other policies and let me know if you have any questions. Okay. Injuries, just quick reminder about this. First aid kits. In the Christian education wing, which is where most of the classrooms are, at least the ones we use on Sunday morning, there's a first aid kit located on top of the fridge in the kitchen. And then there's also one in the foyer over here. It's located at the information center. If kids are injured, if they're kind of hurt, let's make sure we don't overreact. Most instances are small and can be handled easily. Get down on their level, show them some compassion, get their mind back on track as fast as possible. But if they are hurt badly, if there's a head injury, a broken bone, a child goes unconscious or losing blood, make sure still keep calm, get help, get parents, have one leader stay with the child, send the other leader to get a nurse or trained adult, let leaders in the other classroom know what's going on, text, call, and or go get the child's parent or guardian from the sanctuary. And if it is very serious, we can make the call of calling 911. If you're unsure, then you can get a director, get a church leader, and they can make the call. All right, and then it'd be very helpful to us to like write up just a little report of what happened, what you observed, that kind of stuff. Yes?
Have you considered making a very small first aid kit that would include a pair of gloves and Band-Aids so that a leader doesn't have to leave the room? And in the case of a serious injury, dealing with blood loss, you need something immediately.
So yeah, having a small first aid kit in each classroom.
As
Yeah, a little baggy side.
Pick it up, it doesn't have to be,
Yeah, just some gauze, Band-Aids, and gloves.
1 or 2 pair of gloves in it.
Okay. Yeah, I like that idea. I don't have a pen, but. Vomiting. What are we going to do about vomiting? Yeah, let's just agree we're not going to vomit. Yeah. Our church custodian is Terry. So not you, Terry. Stazuski. Yeah, gloves and getting kids out of the area. That's probably a good time to take them to the playground and say, all right, let's get some extra help and get the cleanup going. Yeah, that is a good point. And we should, get the parent, because obviously the child is sick, something's really wrong, so we should get them. Yeah. Yes, there are. Ushers, they also serve as our security team. So they'll be going, they're usually either in the foyer or making a round around the parking lot. So, and they are good for just tracking down a parent or getting some extra help. Yes. Yes.
Can I get rid of that question? If you're in a situation where like someone needs to go get a parent, so an usher is the person to maybe send so the leaders can stay in the classroom.
If it's possible.
Are they kind of pacing the halls periodically?
On occasion, but I mean, if there's an emergency, they might not be there. But yeah, they're around.
There have been times where I've been in my classroom and the second person hasn't shown up, and I'm like, who do I ask to get me someone?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There needs to be a roving person who can handle
Yeah.
emergency work.
Right.
Do the ushers have a regular schedule of, coming through every 10 minutes or something so that they're available?
I don't know. I would think that they have some kind of suggested circuit that they do periodically. So we could ask.
Just scream usher.
Yeah.
Help!
We have a circuit that we do, like we walk around outside the church and everything, and we walk back and we drink stuff. Wouldn't be hard to add to that circuit, like just to walk down the halls, and the rounds happen like every 10 minutes. So
Okay.
that's not like we're gonna guys.
Great. Yeah.
That's not a problem to be able to add the hallways to the thing, so we have a presence every 10 minutes or so.
Okay. Good. Okay. Yeah. So you'll pass that message along. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions or comments about injuries? Other emergencies, general evacuations, earthquakes, lockdown, or missing child. Our policies are there on the bottom of page 12 and over on page 13. Our kind of gathering point for evacuations is the basketball hoop area at the back of the church, just as you would go into the back entrance over by the portable. So that's where we would take kids for evacuations. Other things, just earthquakes, model what you should do, keep everyone calm, say, do like me, get under a desk.
Her hand that was up first.
Oh, okay.
Well, all this stuff is for Sunday school. What about Awanas?
I mean, same policy for evacuations.
Leaders know we're supposed to go out to the basketball hoop if there's an emergency.
Well, now you do. That's why you're here, right? This includes Awana training, so.
If you are doing an evacuation, they should carry the clipboard with them.
Very good point. Yes, make sure your clipboard is with you. Yeah, and the binder, once we track down the binder, that's good to bring with you too. Okay. Missing child, this one's a little bit different, so, but similar to like if there's an injury, one leader stays, one leader goes to find the child. Make sure you prop open the door, inform the other classroom leaders what's going on. Meanwhile, second leader should go to where they think the child is. If the child's not found there, then immediately get the usher on duty, any other available trusted adults involved looking for the child. If a child is not found after an initial search, then call, text, and/or go get the children's ministry director, or if not available, another leader. Julie is no longer here, so you can cross her out. Yeah. And the child's parents. Inform them of when the child was last seen, any details of what led to their disappearance. Continue searching, let them decide further action. Yes, Terry?
Can we go back to the lockdown?
Yes, lockdowns. Yeah, so,
You say go to where will?
yeah,
In the nursery, am I staying in that room?
yeah,
That's as near as you get.
it's true.
If you're thinking like Oklahoma, my kids in here,
Mm-hmm.
sitting ducks, if you had an armed intruder, yes, I would take my kids down a hallway or into a room with the lights out like we practice in public school.
Mm-hmm.
I do not want them visible through a glass window.
Yeah.
And the nursery is one place I would choose.
Nursery could work. This, I don't know. I mean, in my mind, this one, yeah. Well, this one, just classroom B it is. It's actually like a storage area, but it's already blacked out because it has actually a black on those windows. So it's, yeah, so that's,
I mean, if we're being technical, would it be better to use one of those classrooms so that you have an escape route if you need to?
well, that's also why I thought this one. Yeah, so there is an exit to go outside in this room. Yeah, so this is really an ideal room right here because the windows are blacked out and it has an exit.
You've got windows in the green room that we would not be able to deal with.
Yeah, you couldn't block it. Yeah, you couldn't cover it. Yeah. Right. So you'd have to click the button. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how safe it would be to bring the kids into that like maintenance storage area, but that is another, if you're in the green room, I'm thinking. But there is that other door back there. Yeah, other than that, it's essentially, yeah, hunker down, turn off the lights. Yeah, and hold tight.
Are there
Yeah.
put blinds or something in the green room? Because right now, there's nothing on the windows at night. It'd be easy for someone to look in.
In the green room.
Well, they do for alarm.
Yeah, they're Pi. Yeah, there's no plans to block the windows, but yeah, I'm not sure if there's people that not necessarily, we don't have like a security team, but if there is an extra leader or I don't know if people can kind of check the perimeter. Yeah, I'm not sure. Any other questions or comments though? Okay. All right. You ready to keep moving? Classroom management, which I didn't put a, oh, I think then, okay, classroom management will include, classroom rules and misbehavior. So that is page 7 for classroom rules. I got to reinforce this because some of you are, I'm sure, doing it every week and are going over these, so you'll know these rules very well. But it's easy to, especially when you're only volunteering once a month, to forget to include this as part of the routine. But classroom rules, it's good to go over these. The idea is to reinforce it every week. It doesn't have to take very long. It's a pretty quick thing, just a reminder to the kids of these are our 5 classroom rules. And just a very easy little hand gestures to remember. So they are, I can listen. So I just think of it like, okay, I point to my ear. I can listen. I can learn with 2 fingers. I can stay safe, 3 fingers. I can show respect with 4. And I can participate, rule 5. And bonus rule, I can have fun. So these are just good for reinforcing a positive learning environment, reminding kids that they can and should pay attention to what's going on, especially to listening to one another, listening to the teacher. I can learn. This is a learning environment. This isn't just a place to have fun, although fun is involved. I can stay safe. Keeping others safe by not harming others, and I can keep my own body safe, not taking unnecessary risks. I can show respect to my teachers, to others, to myself, and I can participate. All right, so we go over those each week. Now, there will most certainly be disruptive and harmful behavior as well, though. Kids aren't always going to follow those 5 rules. And so we have some policies here for how we handle that as a church. And we really take a grace-based approach to discipline. So this is a great opportunity for us as leaders to show grace, show patience, show love, especially when our children are making it more difficult for us to do that. So those are great testing moments for us. So discipline, do nots. You can see kind of some specific examples on page 8, but essentially it comes down to just do not intentionally embarrass, shame, or harm a child when in bringing discipline that's needed. So what do we do? Prerequisites, look at intentions first, not just the behavior. So, trying to think about what is it that this child's trying to do. Maybe they're not doing it in a constructive way or in a way that's going to work out for all of us here. So it's going to need to be addressed, but be thinking about, were they just trying to do something that is a positive thing, but they did it in a bad way? Well, we can redirect them then to help them meet that goal without doing it in a harmful way. We stay calm and try to redirect their energy and attention into something that's productive. And hear out their concerns. That can go a long ways. It's just letting them express what it is that they're thinking about, what it is they're trying to do. But when that fails, which will on occasion, first steps is leader proximity. So it means getting near the child who is acting out. Sometimes, especially if they're a little more timid, all it takes is just a leader presence, coming and sitting next to them, standing next to them, making sure they know that you're there, you're seeing what they're doing. That can oftentimes just be enough to get them to focus again. Next step would be to reinforce the rules. Say, hey, class, let's remember and our rules for the classroom. Or you could even just call out, give me 5, that they should know what that means. I know Awana does it a little bit different. They count down, right? You guys still use that. So you'll count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, you count up to 5. That's right. That's what it was. Okay, so Awana will count up to 5, so they'll start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For Sunday, now you can tell me if you do it differently. Maybe each teacher does it a little bit different. My policy that I think I wrote down was you can say, give me 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you can either teach them, when it gets to 1, then they clap their hands together to get their hands, to themselves, focused again. And then if needed, you can say, hey, remember what rule number 1 is. I can listen. I really need you guys to listen again. So that kind of a thing. Reinforce it. Are we still using carpet squares in the fellowship room? Okay, when it was a larger group, that kind of helped keep them in their own area, but now it's not, you haven't, okay. So we could bring that back, but for now, I guess we won't use carpet squares, but that is a way to get them to have their own spot and keep a little bit of distance with their neighbor. Did I miss anything? No, okay. Now, if the problem persists, then we can give them their options, both of which come up with 2 options that you would be happy with. No empty threats here, just simply like, hey, you can either keep your hands to yourself or you can sit somewhere else. What's your choice? Or hey, you can either focus on this craft or you can go color by yourself over there. So it's like, we're doing this together as a class. If you're choosing not to do it, then you can just sit here, not distracting others.
Speaking as the mother of a lawyer.
Yeah, go for it.
You can keep your hands to yourself here, or you can keep your hands to yourself.
Okay, I see.
You say like, you can keep your hands to yourself, or you can sit over here.
Uh-huh.
That implies that they don't have to keep their hands to themselves.
Okay, it's in the fine print. The kids will exploit any loophole they can. Yeah. So, keeping language consistent could be helpful. Yeah, I guess in the written example, keep your hands to yourself here or sit by yourself there would imply keep your hands to yourself as you sit by yourself. But yes, I think keep your hands to yourself here or keep your hands to yourself over here. Yeah, that's good too. If they don't choose or they're not having it, without being aggressive, you choose for them. And we would then separate the child from the problem. That might mean just getting them to sit alone for a while. And I encourage you, don't make this a prison sentence. Instead, frame it as an opportunity for the child to take a couple of minutes, calm their body down, slow down, get their mind ready to focus and to show respect. To tell them they can return when they're ready to play by the house rules. Or you could set a time limit if you prefer, but it could just be, hey, at least 1 minute, or until you're ready. It's kind of at your discretion, so there's no hard, fast rule with that. And make the judgment call of whether you should have a heart-to-heart, a one-on-one conversation with the child. Once they've calmed down, if they're really just having a tough day, maybe having one of the leaders go over to them and say, hey, I noticed you're having a hard time listening today. Is something wrong? Give them that chance to express what's going on in their life. And kids can be very insightful at times. Sometimes something is on their mind that's bothering them, and it can come out in their behavior. And then you could ask, what would help you stay focused today? See if they come up with an idea that you could work with. Now, in very severe cases, there could be a time where we need to get the parent involved, but that would be only in the case of they're harming others or harming themselves, or it's so disruptive that we are totally off, can't keep on track as a class, and it's just not workable. If anything like that does happen, make sure that we do it, get the parent involved in a way that's not accusatory or shameful to the parent or to the child, but getting them and just explaining what's going on. And I gave some examples here of some different wording that is worth going over. Make sure you communicate clearly what occurred while also showing care and support. This is about safety, not personal offense or annoyance. Any serious incidents or persistent problems should be reported to myself or to David in the case of Awana. And even if the child didn't get to the level of we need immediate removal from the classroom, but is just having a tough day, it's good to communicate that with the parent in a non-threatening way. So an example wording could be something like, Johnny seemed to have a lot of energy today, had a hard time paying attention during the Bible lesson. We had to separate him from the group so he could have some time to calm down, but when we brought him back in, he did a great job with the craft and playing with others. something along like trying to frame it positive, bad news, other positive. That can be a very helpful technique as well. Yeah.
Sometimes if one child is having a meltdown, it affects the others.
Yes.
So it's good to just tell them they're having a rough day today, we'll just let it happen, it happens, and then the other kids just go, oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. Communicating with the other kids too to help them understand, frame it, what's happening here. Yeah. That's good. Good. And then, yeah, make sure to remember positive reinforcement, especially when a child does make a turnaround, and just making sure to point it out to praise success and good tries. Okay. And partnering with parents, it's just important to communication. That can be about good behavior, about challenges, can be just about the lesson and what you're trying to reinforce and teach. And we do that a little bit with some take-home papers usually, depending on what the different curriculums that we're using in different programs, but there's oftentimes a take-home sheet. Okay, any other questions or comments before we get into special needs awareness? Or do you need a break? Do you want to take 5 minutes, or you want to keep going? Okay, keep going. Don't want to waste any time. You need to get home, get to bed early. All right, special needs awareness. So there's a special handout for this. Now, if you've been to the previous 2 years, you know that what I'm going to say. But again, it's good to reinforce it. It's good for myself even to review our policies here and the different challenges that we do face. I mean, we have these different challenges that arise with some of our kids. And really, I mean, every child to some degree is going to need some special help, a little extra grace. Everyone has bad days, but it's also good to be aware of more significant challenges and how we can better accommodate that. So just to highlight just what kinds of special needs do we have in mind here and that we most often encounter. Number one is autism. This refers to a broad range of conditions that are characterized by challenges with social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech, and nonverbal communication. According to the CDC, 1 in 54 children, I don't know if they're diagnosed with this or just that they predict 1 in 54 have this condition. And because autism is a spectrum disorder, meaning there's a wide variety of what it can look like, each person with autism has a distinct set of strengths and challenges, and it looks totally different from person to person. But it's good to just be aware, especially of the social dynamic the social challenges that can arise because of that, maybe even the ability to communicate. Some people with autism are nonverbal, they can't communicate at all. Some just have some challenges with communicating verbally, and some are excellent communicators. So again, it's a spectrum disorder. Not that I'm an expert, but that's what I'm aware of. ADHD, attention deficit or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. This is characterized by excessive movement it includes inattention, not being able to keep focus, hyperactivity, excess movement that's not fitting to the setting, and impulsivity, hasty acts that occur in the moment without thought. And according to one statistic, it's at 8.4% of children are said to have some form of this, which, I would think many can just grow out of, but it can persist into adulthood. So that can be a challenge. Just being able to have self-control is a big challenge for some. And then trauma, or what is clinically called adverse childhood experiences. These are traumas that are experienced in childhood, including various kinds of abuse, mental illness in the household of, say, a family member, or alcoholism in the household, divorce or separation, of a parent, domestic violence towards a parent, incarceration of a household member, anything that could create instability or can make a child feel unsafe on an ongoing basis in the household or make their environment less predictable, which it can prevent a child's regular development and push them to find their own coping mechanisms to achieve a sense of safety and security. Now, there's no guarantee that any of these examples of different quote-unquote traumas will necessarily come out in behavior, or it might not even come out in negative behavior, but it's just good to be aware of we don't know. And sometimes we do know a little snippet of what's going on in a child's life at home, but a lot of times we don't know. But in any case, when there's a wound that needs healing, it can be healed through support, love, and a sense of security and consistency, and of course through the power of God, which we're all about here. Now, the more of these traumas oftentimes creates bigger challenges. But yeah, as I said, the damage from a trauma can be healed through the power of God at work, through his people, as we even have seen in our own church, of those who, many of us in this church as adults have had maybe traumatic, not myself, but a lot of people have had these traumatic childhoods, and yet they found amazing healings as adults and just through their faith. And I have gotten to hear many testimonies like that in our church. In most cases, we don't know what's going on or has gone on in a child's life. So just being aware of the different types of challenges, and then there's just a miscellaneous different behavior disorders, sensory processing disorders, physical disabilities, learning disabilities. Any questions or comments about any of these? Okay. So how are we going to approach this? There's kind of 5 principles of our foundation to our approach, and then 5 kind of practical tips. I won't spend too much time on these. I know many of you have heard them before, but I'll try to at least explain each point as it comes. So every child is unique. This just means it's important to realize that each child is, just because they might be diagnosed with a certain condition, doesn't mean one thing that worked for one child is going to work for another, and as far as our approach goes. And so just being flexible is key as leaders, as volunteers, that we're open to learning about the unique characteristics of each child and what could help, and trying to adapt as much as we can. Second is to show love, grace, and patience. Now, this is how we engage all children, but it's worth emphasizing, especially for those with special needs. These children will most likely require more grace and patience. We need to remember to stay calm, don't take offense, and we need to get creative with finding solutions. Because safe and loving relationships are instrumental for a child's healing from past trauma and for their future development. Instead of getting offended or angry, teachers should lead by example with words of praise and positivity, show them that you are committed to them no matter what, and that they are safe with you. And this in itself can be really transformative. Third, be flexible and teachable. Kind of commented on that in the previous points, but it's worth just making explicit here. And that might mean, getting their parents involved to come up with ideas of what helps them at school or at home, and trying some different things out in the classroom. All right, number 4, sensory awareness. So this just means, as leaders, when we think about making an environment that is inviting and accessible to people with special needs, is thinking through our lesson plans and our environments in the classroom and going, what could trigger someone with a sensory disorder to like be overstimulated? You know, is the lighting gonna have an effect? Is like, you know, this kind of cool activity that I want to plan, but it's going to involve a lot of movement or like some new things. How is that going to come across to someone with special needs? And it doesn't mean don't do it and only stick to the most simple form, but it means, okay, how could I maybe communicate this ahead of time to someone that I think might have a challenge with this, and see if they are interested in participating, or seeing if that, you know, just giving them a heads up can really go a long ways. And then also the social awareness, being more attuned to the social dynamic, especially, you know, when there's interaction in the classroom or when there's play, time for play, like outside, and just, you know, keeping a close eye and watching out for that, trying to communicate and help develop those social skills, being aware that a child with special needs is going to need a little bit more clear, explicit direction, maybe, or a little assistance in their social interactions. Obviously not overpowering, not getting too involved, you know, allowing it to work itself out, but also just being aware of those social dynamics, especially if there's any, I mean, our kids here are so great, so I couldn't even imagine bullying happening here, but, you know, always having an eye out for someone getting picked on, someone getting excluded, that stuff can happen anywhere. All right, then going into some just teaching tips is the value of consistency and routine. And this is true really for all kids, but just opening up the class in the same way each week can really be helpful. Having like a set way of like, okay, we do this activity, then this, then this. It doesn't have to be the same exact activity, but we kind of have a natural flow, and that can really help. And like I said before, if we're going to change up the flow, making sure to communicate it ahead of time to those who need that extra help. Number 7, give clear and succinct instructions. Clear and succinct, not using too many words, especially just for those with sensory processing disorders or autism, is they really don't do well with metaphors or with kind of figurative language. It needs to be clear. If there's too many words, all kids really can get lost in the instructions. So trying to make it clear, even repeating it word for word can be helpful. I used to substitute teach, and I know that if I said instructions once, I was going to get 5 hands raised in the next 5 minutes of asking me, well, what am I supposed to do? So you need to repeat exactly word for word a lot of times, because it doesn't always come across on the first hearing. Number 8, be specific as well. You know, legal language can be helpful at times. They will look for the loopholes. So trying to be as specific as possible can be very helpful. All right, number 9, positive reinforcement. Just as certain methods of communication are not effective when speaking to a child on the autism spectrum, like figurative language, so too is the case with punishment. Children with special needs, and especially autism, tend to misconstrue negative punishment, but respond much better to positive reinforcement. And, you know, that kind of goes back to, like, say, you know, it's a similar principle to using timeout, you know, getting a child to sit by themselves for a time, but instead of framing it as timeout, we try to frame it as this is a positive opportunity for the child to calm down, to get, to prepare themselves to, you know, follow the house rules and participate with everyone. So just reframing it like that can go a long ways, and also looking for that opportunities to give positive reinforcement, pointing out when a child is doing well. And number 10, remain calm during even the worst behavior. If a child, I don't know, heaven forbid, starts swearing in our classrooms, let's not freak out and, you know, tell them that they are totally out of line. You know, we stay calm, say, nope, we don't use that language here. This is, as you know, just being gracious about how we respond and whatever comes our way. With the Lord's grace, you guys can do it. And me too, I guess, because I'm volunteering once a month as well in the preteen class. All right, any questions or comments about special needs or about any of our policies or anything we didn't cover? All right. Well then, let me close this in a word of prayer, and I'll let you go. Father, we need your help. We ask that you would fill each of us with your Spirit as we serve you with your strength. Lord, we pray for just each of the children at this church and all who would come to visit. Lord, that this place would be a safe place for them, emotionally, spiritually, physically. Lord, that you would watch over them, that you would communicate your love, your gospel truth to them, and that you would use us in that process, Lord, to encourage just a lifelong walk with you, relationship with you, that what an honor it is that we get to be a part of that beginning stages of it in a child's life. And so, Lord, we ask that you'd equip us to do that well. In Jesus' name, amen. All right.